Madhava Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Kunjavihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari. Pijanavalabha Girivaradhari. Pijanavalabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari. You're on the ball. You know, board. What's there? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Vidura's Talks with Maitreya. This is text 12. Munir Vivakshur Bhagavat Gunanam. Munir Vivakshur Bhagavat Gunanam. Sakapite Bharatam Aha Krishnaha. Sakapite Bharatam Aha Krishnaha. Yasmin rinam gramya sukhanu vader. Yasmin rinam gramya sukhanu vader. Matir Gitana Matir Gitanu Hare Katayam Matir Gitanu Hare Katayam Munir Vivakshur Bhagavat Gunanam Sankyapi te Sankapi te bharatam aha Krishna Yasmin rinam gramya sukhana vadyayar Matir hitanu hare katayam Munir vivakshur bhagavat gunanam Sankapi te bharatam aha Krishna Yasmin rinam gamya sukhanu vader Matir vihita nu hare katayam Munir vivakshur bhagavat gunanam Sankapi te bharatam aha Krishna Yasmin rinam ramya sukhanu vader Matir vihitanu hare katayam Mataji. Munihi, the sage, Vivakshahu, described, Bhagavat, of the personality of Godhead. Gunanam, transcendental qualities. Sakha, friend. Api, also. Te, your. Bharatam, the Mahabharat. Aha, as described. Krishna, Krishna Dvaipanya. Krishna Dvaipayan. Vyas. Yasmin, in which. Rinam, of the people. Gramya, worldly. Sukha anuvadahai, pleasure derived from mundane topics. Matihi, attention. Grihita, nu, just to draw towards. Arihe, of the Lord. Katayam, speeches of Bhagavad Gita. Translation. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipanya Vyas, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharat. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. In response, please. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipanyan. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayan Vyas, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord. In his great work, the Mahabharat. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Krishna Dvaipayan Vyas is the author of all Vedic literature, of which his works, Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharat are very popular readings. As stated in Bhagavatam 1.4.25, Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Mahabharat for the less intelligent class of men who take more interest in mundane topics than in philosophy of life. The Vedanta Sutra was compiled for persons already above the mundane topics, which might already have tasted the bitterness of the so-called happiness of mundane affairs. The first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. That is to say, only when one has finished the business of mundane inquiries in the marketplace of sense gratification can one make relevant inquiries regarding Brahman, the transcendence. Those persons who are busy with the mundane inquiries which fill the newspapers and other such literatures are classified as Sri Sudra Dvijabandhana, or Sri Sudra Dvijabandhus, or women, the labour class, and the unworthy sons of higher class Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. Such less intelligent men cannot understand the purpose of Vedanta Sutra, although they make a show of studying the sutras in a perverted way. The real purpose of Vedanta Sutra is explained by the author himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And anyone trying to understand Vedanta Sutra without reference to Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly misguided, Such misguided persons who are interested in the mundane affairs of philanthropic and altruistic work under the misconception of the body as a self could better take advantage of the Mahabharata, which was specifically compiled by Srila Vyasadeva for their benefit. The great author has compiled the Mahabharata in such a way that the less intelligent class of men who are more interested in mundane topics may read the Mahabharata with great relish, and in the course of such mundane happiness can also take advantage of Bhagavad Gita, the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Vedanta Sutra. Srila Vyasadeva had no interest in writing a history of mundane activities other than to give less intelligent persons a chance for transcendental realization through Bhagavad Gita. Vidura's reference to the Mahabharata indicates that he had heard of the Mahabharata from Vyasadeva, his real father, while he was away from home and was touring the places of pilgrimage. Om Ganti Mirandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavali Pastatya Dishatarine. So this third canto, it starts with the quest of Vidura. Vidura wants to, take the opportunity while he's on pilgrimage to hear transcendental knowledge. And he understood that Uddhava had heard this knowledge from Lord Krishna. And so the first 3 chapters it explains how he approached Uddhava, and Uddhava, he was deep in thought about the loss of the Supreme Lord, how he'd left, and he started remembering the pastimes of the Lord. And so the 3rd chapter talks about how he recited the pastimes when he left Vrindavan and he went to Mathura, and then eventually to Dwarka. And then Uddhava, following proper etiquette, he wanted that Vidura heard from an older person, a more senior person. He felt uncomfortable. And so he sent him to Maitreya, who also heard from Lord Krishna at the same time as Uddhava did. And so this is a situation that he met Maitreya and is now inquiring. And here, first thing is that in this particular chapter, he starts inquiring about how will unfortunate people, who are not interested in spiritual life, how will they be able to actually understand? And then he starts asking the question about the creation and the Lord himself, his qualities and how he creates the world and the living entities within it. And then he frankly admits after those few verses that I'm not really interested in that. He says, I'm satiated. That means I'm satisfied. I've had enough. I want to hear about, how we can actually help the conditioned soul. So he's come back to that point now. So we should understand that we're not on the same platform as Vidura. Vidura is a pure devotee. He's actually an incarnation of Yamaraj. And so, a pure devotee has great affection for the living entities by virtue of his own experience. When we actually get something worthwhile, we get a higher taste and we realise we've been saved from not in Vidura's case, in our case, from a difficult condition of life, to say the least, material life. We've been saved from going to hell, that's what it really means. Then, a gentleman or a gentle lady will want to pass it on. He'll want to give it to others. And so this is Vidura's mood. And so now, after a few verses of further questions, what will be answered by Maitreya? What do you think? Maitreya will start talking about the creation. Because we need it. There's no difference between hearing about the creation and about the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan with the gopis. It's all transcendental knowledge, and it's all taking us towards the goal of life. And so, the Acharya said that it's this subject matter that we hear, although sometimes we think, it's a little bit technical, to say the least, and it's also philosophical, which sometimes taxes our intelligence, but it's still, the same. So we should relish that all parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Bhagavatam, it gives these points in such a way, although it's called, in the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions that this literature is, it's not anyway materially contaminated, because it's purely everything's centered around the absolute truth. Although sometimes it's talking about the Mahabharata and like that, but it's centered around the absolute truth. And so therefore it's called the Amala Purana. It's the most important Purana of all the scriptures. But still, we'll find within the page of Srimad Bhagavatam that people, Vidura's asked the question, how do we preach, in other words? And, basically we're not the body, we're the eternal servant of Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're his servant. That's it, get into it. But people can't do that. That's how simple it is. And when we come to that point that we realise, that's all I have to do. I don't have to worry about anything. Krishna says, don't worry, if you do that, I'll take care of you. But we can't accept that straight away. Even as devotees practicing for many years, we've still got skeletons in the cupboard, We've still got attachments that we think, I need that, I'll keep that to one side for later. And so it's a gradual, even within the process of devotional service, it's gradual. What to speak of, attracting people to devotional service. We know how difficult it is, people's attention span. It's like, how many seconds is it now? You ask you a question and then, even while you're answering it, they're looking over your shoulder at something else. So, we've got to have things on, we've got to have video now. We've got to engage all the senses. You've got to do a few, on the other hand, do a little bit of entertainment, you know what I mean? Kanamakarna Maharaj were good at that, actually. That's why a lot of people, they really actually... Well, it's not that. I mean, he obviously is an advanced devotee. I was an advanced devotee. The point I'm making is, you have to work hard. You have to work hard to keep people's attention. And so, later on, after we get all the way up halfway through the third canto, and he's talking about creation, or a third of the way through, it talks about creation. And, subsequent creation. And it talks about it 3 times. And then later on in the third canto, it'll talk about it again. But then, after the second third, it starts talking about, the Kumaras. And, the pastime of Viraha. It starts talking about the devotional aspect. And then eventually about Kardama Muni. So we have to... and actually when we start reading these things about creation, if we really study it, it's intriguing. It's in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says if you study this literature, you'll find it astonishing, the information that's given. So, I mean, you just talk about the makeup of the universe. Just reading that proves that there must be God. Nobody could have thought up that, not in 1,000 years. There's millions of globes coming out of a person's pores, billions at one time. Like, we see sunbeams coming through a window, and each of those, they're actually 4 billion miles across. And often it's filled with the sweat of a living entity who's laid on a snake, with 4 arms. And every time he breathes, all his universes come out. And, there's also another snake, and the whole universe, the whole firmament's resting on his head. And then what else is there? Anyway, it goes on and on. There's an upside-down mountain through the centre of the universe, and everything's resting on that. And then there's mountains, they're actually so many million miles, so many thousands of, not priogens, of yoginas, so many millions of yoginas high, it keeps the sun from going to the rest of the universe. And what to speak of 4 elephants, there's 4 elephants somewhere in there as well, holding up everything. So when you start reading that, I think, they go 2 ways, I think, this is crazy, which, most people will. And but somebody who's a little bit thought with it, this is serious stuff. But coming back to this, we're talking about preaching, aren't we? So Vidura's got a taste. He says, Tvayame nanya vishaya. What's the rest of it? Tvayame nanya vishaya. Matir madu pate sakrit. I can't remember the rest of it. What? Vaite hada gongevodam udanvati. So it means that as the river ever flow into the ocean without hindrance, so this is Queen Country speaking, let my love for you be constantly flowing towards you like that. So, this is a platform of Uddhava. He's a pure devotee. But, so he wants everybody else to have that taste. If we get that taste like that, our problems are over, aren't they? Is it? At the moment, there's a bit of an effort, isn't there? You know what I mean? Is it that time already? When the alarm goes off and you get up, But when we get up and think, wow, Mangalati, Jai, and we run into the shower, And is it over already? Like that. It's just like the taste that a young man, Yunim, a young woman, call it Yunim, and what was it, Yunim? Yuvati and Yuna. Yuvati is a young girl, and Yuna is a young boy. As one verse says, it's natural attraction. It doesn't have to be forced. So, that's the attraction that Vidura's got. And so he wants to, this is our goal in life, isn't it? Our goal is to be spontaneously engaged in devotional service. That, naturally we just serve Krishna. And that's starting to happen. We're all starting to develop some spontaneity, little by little. Gradually, it's becoming more that we're not forced to do it. First, it's habit, isn't it? If we get a habit, we just start doing it naturally. And then that habit develops into a taste. So we have to keep at it. So I was thinking about preaching. We'll get on to it in a minute. Preaching is... So let's look at the example of Srimad Bhagavatam, shall we? Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna likes indirect preaching. Anybody think of any examples of indirect preaching in the Srimad Bhagavatam? You know, if you preach to somebody directly, you know, they'll tell you to get lost, you know, or they'll just walk away, or they won't. They'll be too affronted. Their false ego will be, you know, severely dented, and out of pride they won't actually admit it. That's what we're facing, isn't it? So, you know, Bhagavatam, Krishna sets a perfect example when he creates all the Vedas. He creates the Vedas first so that everybody can try to enjoy this world. And then gradually, through different processes, can become freed from the attraction to this world and to the attraction of devotional service. And it says there's so many Vedas that we can't, you know, read them all. And out of what's left, is it what I said? Out of what's left, you know, they're not there now. Out of what's left, it still takes more than one lifetime to read them. What we're talking about now before that, we're on to the Vedas. Indirect, yeah. So this is Krishna's mercy. He creates a system whereby gradually one can come to devotional service. So we have to follow the same pattern, and that's why Prabhupada, he wanted this Varnashram system starting. You know, natural living, and people living according to their nature. It's not so prominent now because it's difficult. But gradually people are trained in that system, and they have a safety net by which they can eventually, you know, take up the process of devotional service. But now we don't have it, so we're working on the in-between. We're working on a platform where we're trying to bring people to pure devotional service. And, you know, in this material world, things are really degraded, very degraded. So, you know, Prabhupada set the example, he brought the most degraded up to a platform of pure devotional service. But as time's going on, we're having to work harder and harder. So, the example of Narada Muni, I mean, he's in the Vedic age, and there was one king there called Prachina Barishat. And, you know, being a king, obviously, he's got a lot of power, and he's used to people, you know, and they do it. He's the supreme authority. And so it's difficult to actually preach to a person like that. And Narada Muni realised that. And so he went through the whole trouble of, you know, for a couple of chapters of Bhagavatam, preaching about somebody else who was in the same position. So eventually, you know, his false ego wouldn't be dented, and he would become more inquisitive. He would actually grasp quite a bit, but not all. And then King Prachina Barishat said, you know, I think he's talking about me, but I'm not sure. He said, tell me more, you know, I'm interested. So then he started preaching directly. Then there's the story of King Chitraketu and Angira Muni. If we remember King Chitraketu, he had millions of wives. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what the Bhagavatam said. So we have to accept it. And, you know, he couldn't have a child. You know, the first duty of a king is to have a child. Why? What's the first reason? An heir to the throne. That's the second reason. Bhagavatam said the first reason is so that the child will pray for him when he dies. So he won't go to hell. If he does anything, then the child will be brought up to actually perform Pinda ceremony and deliver him from his difficulty. That's the first reason. Second reason, so that the dynasty will carry on. Charity begins at home, right? So, you know, he couldn't have a son. And at that time, you know, Angira Muni was passing, and, you know, these sages, they know everything. He knew what was going on, but for the pastime, he asked him, because he could see in his eyes that although he did his duty and you know, what's the word? He received him very nicely. He could see that he wasn't happy. Has anybody had that experience when somebody's doing something like that? You can see the mind's elsewhere. And so Angira Muni, he actually asked him, he says, what's the matter, you know? And then Chichiketu opened up and told him. And then he tried to, he started to preach, but he could see that, he's just too disturbed. He really wants he can't see it as a benediction. A devotee will see it, whether he has a child or not, to keep on the throne. His main purpose is to become Krishna conscious. So, somebody who's on that platform, he could have preached to him. He could have said, let your younger relative take over the throne. But no. And so he started to, he fulfilled his desires. Krishna's called, he's a self-sufficient philosopher who's been fulfilling everybody's desires since time immemorial. And his devotee actually sometimes has to do that. We have to fulfill desires. And so he said, okay, tell your wife to drink this preparation, and that, within a short time she'll have a child. And Chichiketu was like over the moon. He was really happy. It says, but, it says, this child it will be cause of supreme happiness and supreme distress. And so Chichiketu thought, he may be a pain in the neck later on in his life, he may get puffed up and become a little bit arrogant, and he was thinking like that, But, we're still near heir to the throne, and he was so glad that he got one that he said, okay, no problem. So they called him Harsha Shoka. Harsha means happiness, Shoka means distress. He'll be the cause of happiness and distress. And eventually, the first queen got I forget her name actually, but the first queen got the nectar, and she had a child, and all the other queens, after some time they could see it, they were being neglected by King Chichiketu. And they became so unhappy and disturbed that they decided to poison the child. And so when Chichiketu and his wife found out that the child had been poisoned, you can imagine what a state they were in. He could hardly stand up, he kept falling to the ground, tears were coming from his eyes. He'd lost everything. He'd lost the will to live. And then who came along? Angira he brought the best preacher, Narada Muni. This is a devotee. He won't actually put himself forward. He'll think, no, he can do much better than me. He brought Narada Muni. And now Chichiketu, he was open. He could tell him anything. And so then they preached about pure devotional service. And then he became a pure devotee. So this is our task in this movement, is to find ways and means to actually engage the living entities in devotional service. And now, one of the processes is that we throw the net out wide, right? We throw it out wide. We get a lot of people to come along to a kirtan. But 99%, they're not bothered about devotional service. Maybe 100% at the beginning. And then, gradually by purification, they may take an interest. But then a lot, not many take an interest, and a lot, they drift away again. But the job's done, they've got to start. And what's the other process? We preach direct. Most people will go away immediately, but you might get one or two rare, souls who will listen and carry on. And so and then there's halfway houses, and it's like it's work. You have to work hard, don't you? You have to really work hard. And so this is what Vidur is preach. Bhagavatam is full of preachers. These pastimes, they're all A1 preachers. Vidur is an A1 preacher. It seems like he's performing a particular pastime. Can you manage his position? He's actually Yamaraj. He'll be one of the best preachers after seeing what people have to go through if they don't actually start to become serious about making spiritual progress. So this is a situation, and so there's three things I thought about that we really need to take into consideration. One is we have to use our intelligence. Prabhupada used his intelligence. He did things which were outside the, outside the box, is that the word? We think within a certain spectrum, but Prabhupada thought outside the box. And his godbrothers, they were actually, they were very disturbed. And Prabhupada said, my godbrothers, he said, they've got no brains. He said, they're still trying to distribute Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur's books. In other words, saying those books were okay when they were written, but now we have to move on a little bit. And so we see that the Bhagavatam's there, the Bhagavad Gita there, and they'll always be there, but we have to lead people into it. So Prabhupada encouraged his disciples to write books which are suitable for the time, place and circumstance. What else do we need besides intelligence? Patience. We've already mentioned patience. Experience.
Yeah, how life teaches us.
You mean we have so many failures that we keep saying, I'll not do that again. And then we eventually we're able to get some success. Yeah, we don't have to keep inventing the wheel. If there's some intelligent devotees in the movement that are having some success, then just do what they're doing. This is what the Japanese do. Look at the Japanese, they're so successful. They just watch other people and then copy them and improve on it. So we have to we have to work with what we have. And if we've got intelligence to start something different, then that's okay. But Prabhupada used his young disciples, he kept asking them questions. We should be open to feedback. What else do we need? Well, on that one, and also self-control. Last one, self-control. I was preaching in Russia. Russia, they make a lot of devotees, don't they? And they're very enthusiastic about. Are you from Russia? You? No? Ukraine. Lithuania. Yeah. Same, innit? To us in the West, it's all the same, Eastern Europe. But to a Lithuanian, it's not the same. So, I was on the train going from one festival, we were going to another festival, and then all them up there were at one festival, they were on the train going to the next one. So, they're really enthusiastic. And when I got to the other festival, Bhaktivedanta Manor, I says, and I tell him this, he says, that's the problem. He says they want to go to festivals all the time. In other words, you can't get somebody to stay in one place and do something, It's a big problem in the movement. Everybody wants, join the Haris and see the world, So travelling from here, I like doing this, I like doing that. At some point we say, wait a minute. You can do some of that, but also do your duty. Do some dutiful service. If we stick at something, if we keep sticking at something to a project, eventually it'll actually work. It takes somebody to stick at it, somebody to be there. So this is another one is self-control. We want to, we may be so many things that we want to do, but the things that, we're obliged to do also. So what are the three things I was thinking about? Intelligence. Intelligence means there's different types of intelligence. We all know them, don't we? Lazy intelligence, busy intelligence. What's the other one? Anyway, these two. Lazy intelligence and busy intelligence. So busy intelligence means you've got the intelligence, but you do it all yourself, you know. And lazy intelligence means that, you know, you've got more intelligence because you get others to do it, or you learn from others. That's one thing. Patience, Dairat, it says in the next instruction. Utsahan Nishyad Dairat. We have to be patient in our own devotional service, and we have to patiently try to find ways and means to preach. And lastly, self-control. At some point, you know, we have to stop focusing and trying to help a project and be there for the project. So we can stop there. What's one more? It's called determination. Very, very important. There was, I remember, you know, when you go on, sometimes you have to go on Facebook, unfortunately, you know, and then, you know, as you're looking at something else will come up. Whoop. You think, wow, that looks interesting. I shouldn't really. No, this is interesting. So you think, you know, it's to do with devotional service, and it was boxing. It was Muhammad Ali. You know, when I was a young boy, he was like the champion of the world. He was a really fantastic boxer. And so he was this interview, and he was saying on this interview that in one fight, he was fighting this George Foreman, I think it was. He was a huge guy. He said in the first round he hit him, Muhammad Ali, and he broke his jaw. In the first round he broke his jaw. And for the rest of the fight he was just like protecting himself, you know. And sometimes he'd show his face and pull his tongue out at, you know, George Foreman. And you know, and everybody wondered what was happening, but you know, he knew that if I get hit again, I won't be able to carry on. And so, like after about 10 rounds of this, and then George Foreman, this boxer, he wore himself out, hitting his arms, hitting everything but the right place. And he says, then I heard him breathing heavily. He says, "This is no place to get tired." So then, as soon as he got the opportunity, he came out and, you know, he hit him and he knocked him out. What determination would it need to do that in the first round, you know? So sometimes it's like that in devotional service, you know. We go out there and we get hit for 6, but we've got to just carry on. We're going to get situations like that. There's another one, but I'll tell you later. This is a really good one. We'd like to hear the next one. There was one in the early 60s. There was one runner called Wilma Rudolph. Wilma Rudolph, she was a sprint champion. She won the Olympics in Rome in 1962. Well, if you understood her story before that, she was born with polio. And the doctor said she'll never walk. But she decided that, you know, I'm going to walk. And she decided at one point, I'm going to actually be the fastest person, the fastest woman on the face of the earth. Because she had an attraction for athletics. And somehow or other, gradually, she got the ability to walk, and she was just amazing, all the specialists. And then she started to run in races, and eventually she made the USA Olympic team. I think she got quite a few gold medals as well, relay, individual, like that. And so a devotee, this is one good quality of a devotee, you know. We've got Krishna's backing. We should always feel determined to carry on. We've always got Krishna's support. Anybody know a verse where it talks about Krishna's support? Very good. Ananda Chintayanma. One you tell it. Ananyas Chintayantamam. Yeah, it says that, this verse says that Krishna, he preserves what we've already got in devotional service and what ability we have, and he actually gives us what we don't have. He actually gives us the necessary paraphernalia or tools to, do the service that we need to do, even though it may, by material standards, be beyond us. Okay, we'll stop there. Anybody got any questions or comments? Is everything is clear? All right, go on. Hey? One who sees me in everything and everything in me, I'm never lost.
I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost
To me.
That's all encompasses everything. You just got to carry on.
It's what?
You just have got to carry on
Yeah.
and see that actually maybe this is teaching me something. But also what I see also is I see in others is also in me. It's an amazing process.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just in your critical mind.
Yeah, we're mercy cases, aren't we? We're real mercy cases. And so, eventually Krishna will be satisfied that we're trying. And then he'll see that the mood is right, the determination is right, we really want to actually go back to Godhead, then we'll get it. It's not a matter of how successful externally we are, it's a matter of his internal development. Like, the story of Mukunda, he was going and listening to so many different philosophers, Mayavadis, impersonalists, and when Lord Chaitanya found out, he was extremely angry. He said, "Tell Mukunda, I don't want to see his face around here anymore." And then, the devotees said, "Well, give him some mercy. At least give a time when you will see him again." And he said, "After 10,000 births." And Mukunda was listening in the next room and he started jumping in ecstasy. And because he had that, determination that I'll definitely see him after 10,000 births. So Lord Chaitanya brought him in, he said, to see him immediately. Okay. Did you have a question? No? A comment, okay. Dantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi.